is off the wall. Jock in to score. Here comes J.D. Davis. The relay home. He slides safely into second with a booming double. Thairo Estrada. And the Giants have taken a 3-0 lead added on here in the ninth inning.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
Dave Fleming on NBC Sports Bay Area. Nothing like some insurance there, Larry. When you've already got Doval warmed up and on the bump with a 1-0 lead, you felt good about Camilo and the way he's thrown this year, up 1-0, but then Thairo gets you 2 more, and it is night-night in Toronto.
Yeah, I was listening to that on the drive and drive back, and yeah, I mean, that was huge because, you know, you don't want the 1-run lead on the road, especially, and that let Doval breathe. And the Giants' bullpen has been nails. I mean, and Taylor Rogers the lefty is really, really good. Tyler Rogers has been spectacular, and then Doval's probably an all-star. I mean, you know, when I saw Doval at the beginning of the year, Dibs, and he was struggling with the pitch clock, and it was bothering him, and I was like, oh man, this guy's gonna have a rough year. And somehow, some way, they kind of helped him adapt, and he made the adjustment, and he's just free and easy. 102, throws strikes. His command's way, way better than it was a year ago. Yeah, he looks great.
Nothing like free and easy 102, by the way. Oh. I mean, I strain to even hit like 60 anymore, and that's max effort, full torque, every ounce of anything I've ever had. I was a thumber. This guy's free and easy 102.
You ever hit in the cage with your kids? I mean,
definitely.
I got 2 kids. I got a kid that play baseball right now. I got one that plays at Northgate, and I got one who's an 8th grader. And I'll take him to the batting cage, and they'll be like, "Dad, get in here, take some hacks." And I'm like, "Okay." And then, you know, get into the fastest cage, maybe throwing 80, and it might as well be Randy Johnson, right? Or, you know, Bob Gibson in his prime or something. It's just smoke. I mean, you don't realize we're removed enough, even if you're sitting right behind the plate, to not really get a sense of how fast and how quick these decisions have to be made. And you see some of these pitchers that can throw 96, and they have like 4 different things they can do with the ball, and the ball can, you know, they got a splitter and a cutter and a curveball and a slider and a fastball that tails and a 2-seamer and a cut fastball that runs in on the hands. And I mean, the big league hitters are incredible that they can hit that night after night. It's an amazing thing. Their eyes don't get tired, and you're in St. Louis in the summer, you're not getting sweat in your eye, and you got 100 coming at you.
Let alone when the batter's eye is in the sun and then you're in the shade and you're trying to pick it up out of the guy's hand and he's throwing 100. It's ridiculous how good these hitters are to make contact, let alone do what Estrada did there in the ninth and provide a big off-the-wall double, bases clearing, 2-run score, put the game on ice. Camilo Doval has been amazing. Unfortunately, Farhan Zaidi doesn't get credit for Doval. He was in the system before he came, but Farhan Zaidi, Larry, he's done so many things that didn't resonate in the moment that have turned out to be big things. The Yankees traded Thairo Estrada in April of 2021 for cash considerations.
Yeah.
So for cash, and I'm imagining it wasn't millions of dollars. Mark actually had a funny bit last week about cash considerations. Like, I'll consider giving you cash for this player, or do you give him like, you know, $1,748 in pennies? What is it like when you send cash considerations for a player, but
coupons,
right? Is it a Venmo? Is it a PayPal? How does this actually work in terms of the exchange of monies? But they sent cash to the Yankees, who basically gave you Estrada on a platter, and now he's a borderline all-star as well.
Well, and Estrada was a top prospect in their system as a youngster, and it just took him time. I mean, I think the Yankees signed him at like 16 or 17, and, you know, they kind of gave up on him along the way, and now look what he's emerging into. He's really special. You know, it's funny, some of these teams like have like a team that they like to do business with in the American League. Didn't the Yankees and the Giants hook up on a deal where the Giants sent Wandy Peralta to the Yankees for Talkman maybe or something like that?
Yeah.
So they've made a few deals, but yeah, that was a major advantage for the Giants. And it's those kinds of moves on the margins that has kind of been the hallmark of Farhan. he hasn't landed the big fish in free agency. He hasn't made the, outside of Chris Bryant, the big deadline deal. But he's made some really nice, underrated moves on the margins. And now the farm system has started to really blossom. And to me, the guy who's the most impressive of all of them is Patrick Bailey.
Yeah.
And Bailey's throwing out like 38% or something like that of all base stealers. The league average is 20. And so this guy's just been throwing guys out, calling great games, swinging the bat. I mean, to me, Bailey, it took some guts, right? Because Farhan took over for Sabes. Sabes is still in the organization. Sabes drafted Joey Bart.
Yeah.
And the year before Farhan gets there, Farhan gets his first round pick. I'm going catcher again. I'm going with a better catcher in Patrick Bailey. And people were like, well, then he kind of stalled out in the minors for a year. And now Bailey looks like, I hate to say it, he looks a lot like Buster.
883 OPS, switch hitter. He's now played in 30 games, and he has cemented himself as the starting catcher for years to come. And if you're Joey Bart, you're hoping to do all you can in AAA to put pressure on the Giants to find somewhere for you to go and play, because it feels like the Joey Bart era will be coming to a close. Another player that Farhan Zaidi doesn't get a ton of credit for just yet, although he's starting to put together a pretty nice year, is Michael Conforto. 12 home runs now, free agent acquisition. He wasn't the big fish in Aaron Judge, but he was a fish. Michael Conforto on this morning, on the morning roast, talked about when the Giants started recruiting him and how it went.
They were reaching out, before I originally got injured in the 21 off season. They had sent over a nice video. They kind of summarized my career all the way back to the Little League World Series and then the College World Series, and then kind of made this big video of, we want to be the one to bring you back to the World Series. So that was kind of my first introduction to them. They separated themselves in that way. Then coming back, missing the 22 season and not having as many teams involved, but there were some other teams out there, who contacted me. But the Giants had sent out Dave Greshner to come see me. They sent out Justin Veal, our hitting coach, to come see me. I meshed really well with those guys right away. I had heard great things from guys who had played in the organization. I played with Joe Panik. Matt Boyd is a good friend of mine. I know he didn't play much or at all for the Giants, but he had great things to say about the organization, and really just everything that I had heard was very positive, and so it just kind of felt like the right move for me and my family. And boy, did I make the right decision! I feel like everything has been so good to this point, and they've obviously helped me in my journey back to being healthy, and now we're just riding that wave. The team's playing great.
Michael Conforto this morning with the morning roast, Bonte and Joe, and I think he did make the right choice, in fact, based on the year he's having and the way he's fitting. But it struck me, Larry, with the way the recruitment happened. 2 years ago, they sent out a video to Conforto highlighting his Little League World Series, playing for Redmond, Washington, his College World Series, Oregon State, and then being in the actual World Series with the Mets, letting him know, we want to get you back to the series. That doesn't feel like it's out of Farhan's normal playbook.
I know. And think about the headlines when they signed Conforto, because it was on the heels of missing out on Carlos Correa. And it's like, oh, Carlos Correa is not healthy. Now you're going to sign a guy who's, didn't play all of last year. So there was some snickering and some people making fun of that move. But Conforto's a great guy, man. He really is. Pacific Northwest guy, Oregon State guy. I was down in Arizona, Dibs, and it was early. But there was a young media person, and this person had not done many interviews, and I had been talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, here comes Conforto. Let's see, if we can talk to Conforto." And so he starts doing this interview with him. And
Michael, do you have a minute? I got a couple questions.
It wasn't that the guy had a high-pitched voice.
It always works better with a young cub reporter.
Right. But the guy interviewed him for 25 minutes.
Long form.
25 minutes. And Conforto just...
On form toe.
Patently answered every single question. And
awesome.
Even at the end, Dibs, the questions got dumber and worse and more ridiculous.
Do you prefer Mike or Mikey?
And it was the most random interview of all time. But you know what? He just sat with it and it was like totally cool about it and was gracious. And it was like, told me that this is a good dude. This is a good guy. Because a lot of times veteran players, this guy's been around, maybe young, AA guy might do that for you, but a guy who's played 5, 6, 7, 8 years in the big leagues or whatever,
right,
is not going to sit there and be interviewed. I don't care if it's March the 7th. You're not going to sit there for 25 minutes and
you wouldn't
answer
give Marty
questions.
Lurie 25 minutes.
Right. And he just kept answering the questions with these thoughtful, long answers. And it's just like it told me, Conforto's a hell of a guy.
Good guy, and he is in very elite company, Larry. One of only 3 players to ever play in the Little League World Series, the College World Series, and the actual World Series. Do you know who the other 2 are? Of course you don't.
No.
It's a very nuanced.
I think I know one. I think who was the big blonde-haired kid?
Nope.
Sean Casey. Sean Casey?
Nope.
Jeff Burrows?
Nope.
I don't know.
Jason Varitek
Wow,
and
winner.
Ed Vosberg. You remember Ed? Easy
Who are
Ed?
you?
Thank
Seattle
you.
reliever or something like that?
Exactly. It's just kind of a quirky thing, but Michael Conforto, one of 3. I was looking at his Little League highlights today as an 11-year-old playing in Williamsport, hitting an Oppo taco, throwing guys out from the outfield, and he only 11. That's usually 12 and 13-year-olds at that level, but Conforto was already showing that he was the real deal. So
All I'll say is this, and you've probably been there for this as well. There's something super cool in August if you do have a press pass to go into the big league clubhouse while they're playing all those Little League World Series games. The big leaguers stand in the clubhouse and they are watching it intently.
Awesome.
And then like commenting and like, look at this kid and look at this and look at that. I mean, that is cool.
I
really
love
cool.
the Little League World Series. I get in on the regionals. I'm probably too into it, and it's a me problem.